Good evening, beloved. So good to welcome you tonight to our lovely program. Dumelang bagaetsho, le perile go yenand. We just moved into a new venue and a new studio. So we are still trying to fix all the cabling, but Muniwarini will soon be sorted out. But it's good to be with you here tonight. And we want to greet you all from cold Johannesburg. Now, Palesa Yates is the first one tonight to say, Dumela, President Meshwe, Dumela, Dumela, Dumela. And then Marian Lotta also is joining and saying good evening to all the friends of the ACDP. We have Christo Komfa from Nelson Mandela Bay. He's the chairperson of Ward 12. Welcome, sir. Welcome. Bani Bernardo. Good evening, President. Good to have you, Bernardo Bani. And then we have Nora Malitinyiko, who's saying, good evening, our Honorable President and everyone participating. Happy to meet you again online. And then all the way from Polokwane, we have Leonilo, who is saying, good evening, our President and the ACDP family from Waterberg and Limpopo. Koyenand, Limpopo. Tandeka, Mtabela. Good evening, President. Good evening, Tandeka. And Marvin Charles Christian Chu. Greetings, Mr. President, from a wet and cold Cape Town. I'm glad I'm not in Cape Town now. Hoyenand, that's Christo Ombafuti. I hope it's from far. If I'm pronouncing it wrongly, please excuse me. Then we have Paul Masia. Good evening, Honorable President. Good evening. I like your car, sir. I like your car. Okay, I see Ronald Harris, former MMMC in Johannesburg Metro. Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, colleagues. Good evening to everyone. Jeanette Dreyer. Good evening, President. Good evening, Jeanette. And Kino Peterson. Good evening, President, from a wet and cold Cape Town. Come to Joburg, guys. And then we have Itumeleng Hops. Good evening, Muruti Meshwe. Good evening, Itumeleng. Obviously, friends, I'm not alone. My co-pilot is with us tonight. Honorable Wayne Thring, my co-pilot, also is with us and is going to greet all our viewers, all those who are participants tonight, and then we'll take it from there. Welcome, sir. Welcome. The Lord bless.
Thank you, President, and good evening. Unfortunately, I'm not able to greet you as many others have indicated cold and wet, but I can say greetings from a very pleasant and warm KwaZulu-Natal. So if you want to come and join us, you are welcome. But I do believe that the cold front will approach in the next day or so, bringing some cold to the Drakensberg and to KwaZulu-Natal. So welcome again. You've been greeted by our president, and mine is also just to confirm and to agree. So good to have each and every one of you that join in with us at our family meeting. So God bless you, and I know that you're going to enjoy the information that you will receive tonight. Bless you, sir, and back to you.
Thank you, sir. Friends, let me also repeat what I said, or again repeat what I said earlier. We have just moved into a new studio. There's just one cable that doesn't want to operate, okay? It's not us, it's the cable. But we will get it right. We will get it right. On Saturday, we were in Northwest, in a township called Tlhabane, to assist one of our colleagues, one of our members who's going to be our candidate, actually who is our councillor candidate during the by-election. Two things happened that I really want to start with because they are good news story. Now, this lady who is our candidate in Thabane had her pastor there to come and support her. It was the first time that we see a pastor attend an ACDP rally to support his member. That's a good man, that one. And he came on the platform. He was not ashamed to say our party and to switch strength to his member. So we need to challenge our pastors. Pastors that want to receive tithes from our members, but they are ashamed to stand with them. So we honor that pastor. Murudi Kenneth, thank you very, very much for the stand you have taken to publicly endorse a member of your church. Murudi Makopo, thank you very much. That's his name, Kenneth Makopo. So thank you very much. That was the good news, to see a pastor come out to support his member and stand on stage with us for everybody to see that he's not only supporting his member, he's also supporting the ACDP. That was good news for me. We have many secret supporters who don't want to be seen publicly. But the second thing that happened, among the people who attended the rally, was a gentleman who is in his 60s, who came to me and said, I'm so glad to see you. He said he got saved in 1985, listening to a cassette where I was preaching. And I didn't ask him, where was I preaching? He said, I just had your cassette. He listened to the cassette, and I was preaching there, and he got saved, he said. So I asked him, what was he preaching? What was I preaching about? He said, escape for your life. Oh, it brought back many wonderful memories. You know, in Genesis 19. And I remembered, when he said, escape for your life, I said, oh, Genesis 19. Genesis 19, when Lot and his family were rescued by an angel before Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed. One instruction that they were given was that escape for your life, do not look back, escape to the mountains, and that was it. So he remembered that and he got saved. And he said, I am a pastor even. So thank God, that for me was a beautiful one. To hear that a person got saved, listening to a preaching tape, 1985, he's still standing today, and he is even a pastor. I'm grateful to God for that. All right, now before we come to today's subjects, there were questions that were forwarded by a number of our members. Now, obviously, because we want to interact with you, if you have questions, we take them seriously. So we are going to start by answering the questions that came in, and then we'll start with the new subjects for today. All right? We want your comments. Either contribute, because I'm going to ask you questions. Give us your answers. Write to us. We'll read your answers. And if it's a question, we'll answer your question. All right. Now, the questions that were asked by our people, let me read them. There were 4 questions that were asked. Depending on time, we are going to try to answer them all. But the first question that came from Ed Venom Hali, SA, it says, what is the ACDP going to do when they are in government and have to deal with the LGBTQIA plus community? The question now is, are you going to confront them, or are you going to ban them? Okay, what is the position? How are you going to deal with these people? Confront or ban? Okay, now, obviously, I'm with my co-pilot, Honorable Wentering. I asked him, I said, well, take this one, I'll take the another one, and will do that. But he's going to start with this one. So, Honorable co-pilot, are we going to confront these LGBTQ guys, or are we going to ban them? We say we banned you either to go and enjoy yourselves at the beach in Mauritius, or we ban you to the Kalahari Desert. Where are you going to send them? Kalahari Desert or Mauritius?
Yeah. President, I think one only has to look at the policies of the ACDP. The policy of the ACDP is when we look at religion, the ACDP speaks and talks about, and our policy confirms that we uphold freedom of religion. Now, in that particular vein, the ACDP's position is pro-family. Pro-family in the sense that we believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, a husband and a wife. And in that sense, the ACDP will promote pro-family values. Now, there are other groups that promote the LGBTQ group. Very certainly, the ACDP will not be promoting what we do not believe in. But that said, they will not be banned. You cannot ban sin. We believe that that particular lifestyle is not a lifestyle which is compatible with God's word. And we've made that very clear. And our stance on that is very clear. But will we ban the LGBTQ plus group when we come into power? The answer is no. But we certainly will not promote them and promote their lifestyles. The lifestyles that we will promote will be godly lifestyles based on biblical values, because the ACDP is a pro-biblical based party.
Well, I'm sure we are all relieved. They will be more relieved to hear that you are not going to send them to the Kalahari Desert or even to Robben Island, because we love them as people, but we are just not endorsing their lifestyle that is not compatible with scriptures, as you correctly said. All right. The second question came from Ed Tosteroni Tess. He says, the ACDP is not going to bring in enough votes. So how are you going to take the one and only chance to unseat ANC and EFF? Or are you going to give it to a party without a voice in another round of ANC governance? The answer is a big no. Now, obviously, the question about the perception that ACDP is not going to make bring in enough votes is a relevant one, which must be addressed. But two important things I must say. South Africans, and it's not Domini, they are not foolish, they are wise. South African voters are wise. There's something interesting I read. One historian said, it takes an average of 30 years for a liberation movement that has won elections to get out of power. It takes an average of 30 years. He says during those 30 years, they will fail people and they will keep on asking for another chance, keep on making new promises until the voters say, we are tired of empty promises. Get out, we are looking for alternatives. So having said that, please know that there are many people from different political parties, particularly the ANC. You know, there are many Christians in the ANC. Many of them are saying, hey, we thought we could change them from inside. We have been praying for change, praying for them. Rather than change, they are becoming worse. So we are leaving. So besides the fact that there are many people who are joining the ACDP from the ANC, there are also many people who will not make their decision known now. It's too early to say that. That will not bring enough votes. We'll talk when we are a month or two just before the election, sometime next year. But please note that people are approaching the ACDP, people are calling, our footprint in the country is increasing. We are grateful for that. So there will be enough votes, to give us the right to govern South Africa. So that is not going to be a problem, so the votes will be there. All right. Now, the ANC, okay, let me again say lastly, the ANC will not govern South Africa again. That one, I am 150% sure that the ANC will not govern South Africa again. They have messed up this country. So, I trust that that answer helps you, sir. The third question, from Ed T.S. Tumkesh. Oh, that's a nice one. This person says, powerful and decisive. It's really noteworthy that there are organizations that can speak out boldly without fear of conformity from the metrics. Question though, what is the ACDP's position on land? Okay, my co-pilot, this is your chance, sir. Come back and tell us what is our position on land. And then we'll go for the last question before we start with our topics for the day. Thank you, sir.
President, on this one, I can speak for quite a long time because of my involvement in the ad hoc committee to amend Section 25 of the Constitution, as well as my involvement with the expropriation bill in the Public Works Committee, Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. But so I'll try to summarize our position. So firstly, the ACDP opposed the expropriation of land without compensation, the amendment of the Constitution, Section 25 of the Constitution, to allow for the expropriation of land without compensation. As a result of our contribution, together with many other opposition parties, the ANC failed to get the majority to amend the Constitution. So the attempt to amend Section 25 of the Constitution failed. What the ANC then did, the ruling party then did, they went to an old piece of legislation, that legislation which allows for expropriation at municipal level, provincial level, and government level, for example, to build freeways, to build a school. If there's public interest, a greater public interest, land was expropriated, but it was expropriated with compensation. So what the ANC then did was they looked at the old bill, the old legislation, and they amended the old legislation to allow for expropriation if the land is lying vacant, if the land proposes or is potentially a health hazard, if the property has been neglected or vacated, and so on, amongst other things. So they've gone and they've amended an old piece of legislation. And again, the ACDP opposed that. Now, why? When you look at our policy, the ACDP's policy, number one, is a policy, and we've stated very clearly that the ACDP is not opposed to the recompense to those whose land was forcefully taken from them. But the question is not why, the question is in the how. So we're not opposed to land restitution, but it's in the how the land is actually restituted. Now, if you're going to be taking land away without proper compensation, without due compensation to individuals, what it does is that it has the potential to destroy the economy in terms of potential investment. And right now, South Africa needs every bit of investment that we can get. Secondly, it has the potential to destroy our food security. So the ACDP supports the security of land tenure. The ACDP also has indicated that property rights must be protected. This, by the way, is in line also with Kgalema Motlante's land panel report that was submitted to Parliament, to the ANC. And one of the things that he said, he says that if property rights in South Africa, in that report, he said if property rights in South Africa is not protected, then the consequences of not protecting property rights will be too ghastly to contemplate, because he understood that the economic consequences of not protecting property rights will be devastating to the South African economy, and in particular to our ability to ensure food security. So essentially, the ACDP is not opposed to restitution, but there has to be a due process that should be followed. The ACDP was one of the first political parties that called for land courts to ensure for the expedition and the quick expedition of the restitution of land, where it can certainly be proven that the land was forcefully taken during the apartheid era. So our further policies also indicate that there needs to be on land, there has to be a focus on rural development. Because currently what is happening is that rural development is not sufficient development taking place. There's the push and the pull factor. People are being pushed from the rural areas, pulled into the urban areas, and there's a huge neglect that is taking place, and the people within the rural areas are becoming poorer. So there has to be a focus. There has to be a intended focus within developing the rural areas. So, President, I think in a nutshell, one of the other aspects that we've also said is that we need to be able to look also at government land, land that is available, government land that's available. And there's huge amounts of land available by government that can be used also to address the land issue. So, as I said, I can speak at length to this particular issue, but in summary, I think that let me pause there. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. All our members understand our position. We are not supporting, and we will never support a land grab, the Zimbabwean style. You know that there was a time when Zimbabwe was the breadbasket of Africa, the breadbasket. But they have lost that ability. Why? Because they allowed the land grab. Some people in Parliament and in South Africa wanted the land grab to be done like in Zimbabwe. So the economy collapsed. We don't want to learn from the wrong things that they have done. Okay, now having said that, now time is running out, obviously, and I said we have 4 questions. The 4th one maybe we'll answer later if time permits. Otherwise, we'll look at it next week. The 4th question will wait until next week because we have guests that are with us. Now, the second thing that we are going to look at is shack fires. We have been hearing about families that lose everything. They lose their assets, they lose, some of them, their pension money, their grants, their passports, IDs, and so on. And this thing is continuing. Like government does not have an answer. Sunday morning, this past Sunday morning, Kennedy Road Informal Settlement in Durban saw about 1,000 shacks catching fire. Imagine fire starting 1 a.m. while people are sleeping. It's winter. If they lose everything, 1 a.m., who's going to give them a blanket? Where are they going to sleep? And unfortunately, 1 person died, and 4, I understand, are critical in hospital. So we want to know, what has our members, ACDP, done in KZN to help the victims of fire? And then we are going to listen to another incident that took place in Cape Town. And thereafter, we are going to come with proposed solutions. We do not just want to raise problems, but we want to bring solutions, because there are solutions. Now, before I bring in the first councillor to tell us how they've dealt with this matter and what they are doing, because it's not the first incident of shacks burning and affecting many around them, hundreds of them, which is not necessary. And I think one of the mistakes that I do not know why government does not correct is that these shacks are built so close to each other, that even the fire trucks, many times they cannot go through, they cannot pass through, because these shacks are so closely built together. Now, because I was around when many of the exiles came back to South Africa, and they started these shacks, because they saw that when they were, the ANC, I mean, they saw these shacks when they were abroad. One of the things that was said then, in the early 19, when they started building these shacks, we asked the question, and I asked the question also, why are they so close to each other? They said, no, when the police are chasing them, they want to run into a squatter camp, and the police vans cannot go in there. Just disappear, because the houses are so close to each other, they would not know in which shack you have gone into. But the fruits thereof are not good. So we are losing lives, and we are losing properties, and we are losing time and losing money, because after they're destroyed, more money has to come up so that people can rebuild their lives. All right. Now, the first one who's going to tell us what happened at this Kennedy Road informal settlement is Councillor Jamil. Councillor Jamil, please let us know what has happened.
What has happened?
All right.
All right.
Yes.
Good evening, Honorable President.
Good evening,
Good evening, sir.
Good evening to the Deputy President and to the viewers online. On Sunday morning at 1 o'clock in the Kennedy informal settlement, which for many people they know is in Springfield, Ward 25.
Councillor Jamil,
that squeaky sound is from your side, sir.
Good evening,
Are you
President.
okay?
Are you okay?
That's better.
Okay.
Oh.
On Sunday morning, President, like you mentioned, on Kennedy Road, in the Kennedy informal settlements, two gentlemen were drunk and they had an argument and a fire broke out. Now, that fire spread through 1,101 shacks, and it destroyed all those shacks that were there. The sad reality about it is that most of these shacks, like you mentioned, were built so close that it was difficult for rescuing most of the flats or the shacks that were around there. Now, this particular area to many people is also a dumping ground in Springfield Park, and most of the people built their homes on this dumping ground. The water access, the access to basic necessities was very limited. There is only 2 water stations in this area that was built around the shacks. So it was very difficult for even the emergency services to stop the spreading of this fire. Now, this was reported at 1 o'clock in the morning to the various departments, but by 6 o'clock, the report was that 1,101 flats were burnt. Out of this 1,101 shacks actually that were burnt, the adults were 1,710 adults that were homeless. The number of children that were affected were 647. Like you mentioned, one gentleman passed away, and he's Mr. Vuyani Nkala. He's 25 years old, and he relocated from the Eastern Cape with the hope that he was going to have a better prospect in the city of eThekwini. Now, we have today visited the site, both myself and Councillor Simo. We have engaged with the various departments, the Department of Education, the Department of Social Development, the disaster unit within the eThekwini municipality. And the only priority at this moment in time is that they are making sure that the people get food. And so we, as councillors, we spoke to the Department of Education, and we said that it's going to be important that the children return to school, because every day for them to be hanging around on the streets is going to become a common cause where they are not wanting to get educated. So there must be a time frame for them to return to schools. If they do not have uniforms, then for now, at least if they go with whatever clothes they have and engage with those schools until the paperwork is resolved and they have access to also uniforms. We also spoke to social development, and we said that it's going to be important for them to get the various departments here. Why? Because people have lost everything. Their ID documents, their SASA cards, and basically any access, including their belongings, have all been gutted in this fire. So as the ACDP councillors, we are working with NPOs and NGOs. Today we went to assess it. I've given the report to the relief services from Durban North, rescue relief services. They are coming tomorrow. We will meet with them. We will be handing out blankets. We will be handing out hampers to the family, to the families that were devastated in this fire. We also realized that through our engagement with the community, many of them don't want to live in shacks. And so they said that when the ANC do come with material to rebuild the shacks, they're going to refuse it because they were promised homes. And so they want to stand the ground to say that we want better homes and we want homes now. So the shack mentality through us engaging with the residents is a no. And so we also said to them that we will be engaging with HSI, and we will ensure that they reprioritize budget and they make this particular area, which is in Springfield, the Kennedy Road informal settlement, a priority to build low-cost housings, so that this shack fires will not continue. President, noting this is not the first time that this fire had broken out in the same informal settlement. It's an annual challenge that this community faces. Every single year there is fire that is breaking out in this area, and the municipality chooses not to do anything to ensure the safety of the people. And so as the ACDP councillors will continue, as you have rightfully said throughout the years, we're a caring party. And so in our caring, we are providing the necessary furnitures like and equipment such as blankets and groceries so that the families can be nourished. But we also want to hold the municipality accountable so that they move away from shack mentality to build conducive homes so that our people are able to live and enjoy the benefits of a better South Africa. Thank you, President.
Thank you. It's so good to hear that we are going to move away from the shack mentality. Shacks obviously are not exposing people to better life out there so that they can also aim to have better housing. So the ACDP will ensure that we do not have these shacks that we are having today. Definitely, we know that government promised, the ANC promised that they are going to do away with shacks. They have not done it. The promise we make, because we are God-fearing, we are caring, will be always a promise that we'll keep. So we will ensure that people don't live in these shacks that are not enhancing the dignity of the people. All right, I saw yesterday morning a report on ENCA about a pilot project that has been launched in Cape Town to limit the spread of fires in their informal settlements. All right, let me read this paragraph. The City of Cape Town, in partnership with Mandoval Vermiculite Pty Limited, has launched a pilot project to limit the spread of fires in informal settlements. All right, now they are using or coating the shacks with a fire retardant substance. That's a special chemical we saw on TV that they were coating, they were putting on the shacks, and they say that retards the fire. If there is a fire, it will not happen as quickly as it happens these days. And besides that, the ACDP will not only use this kind of technology, but will also make sure that the shacks are not as close, built as close to each other as they are right now. They will be properly spaced so that we do not have a repeat of the attacks of by fire and the people losing their livelihoods because of these unfortunate fires. Now, in Cape Town, in Joe Slovo informal settlement near Langa, our MPL in the Western Cape legislature, Honorable Fellon Christians, was with other members of the committee in that settlement where they also had fires. Now, they discovered a few things that I thought it would be important for us to hear. Now, as you are hearing, friends, we need to all come to a conclusion. There are important things we can learn from the mistakes of others to make sure that when ACDP is in power, we do not repeat the mistakes and we do not have the same accidents happening again. So, Honorable Christians, Fellon Christians, please tell us what you discovered at Langa when you had that visit with some of your colleagues.
Thank you, President, and good evening, Deputy President. Yes, if we were out in Langa to do some oversight, but I took some of the councillors with me, Councillor Marvin Christians, he's safety and security, to look at that aspect. I took Councillor Deirdre de Vos with me, she's human settlements, and we also took Councillor Mobani with us because he's water and sanitation. So I took some of our members and some of our councillors because we had numerous complaints about what's happening. Now, President, what is very, very interesting is that we had the displacement of people, 205 households in the Joe Slovo informal settlement, and they were relocated to temporary housing, informal housing. Now, when you relocate, so the city comes and relocate, when you relocate, you don't do the same mistakes of placing people on top of each other just to have another fire. That is going to happen very soon. So what we've discovered, with the flooding now, children cannot even come out of the houses. People are blocked into their houses because the water is all over. But what I thought about is when we looked at that issue, and they are put in temporal, they call it temporary housing, and now you have temporary housing, and you just stack them next to each other for another fire or flood to take place. And as the ACDP, we are a caring party, and something needs to be done. So I thought about when I was a councillor more than 10 years ago, we started with talking about the reblocking of informal settlements. And that is essentially, to have good structures put up, and also structures with some foundation. So I don't know if you saw, if you go down the one of the streets, you can see these silver sink settlements put up, and that is quite spacious and is put away from one another so that services can also happen. So I don't know why. So there is some pilot projects of these reblocking, and I don't know why the city and the province has not embarked in, creating safe spaces for the people. Because when you, like I said, when you relocate people to another venue, you don't make the same mistakes. And because these reblocking that I was talking about is also, you have services to the people, you build the SACS on a foundation. So it means that the community and the city and other NGOs get together and they get the buy-in of the community, and the community is happy. But I heard what you said, and I know now about the coating that they use. So the coating is to retard the fires, but that should just be to help with this, that we don't have the spread of fires. But the important thing is that we should look at, because the backlog already in the Western Cape, and the backlog for people waiting for housing is over 500,000 people on the waiting list. And in the Western Cape, you have more than 200 informal settlements. So it's a big dilemma. And if you look at the money allocated, we will not sort out this problem very soon unless we have, redirect the funds. If the ACDP comes in power, there's other ways and means to do it. But the important thing for us, and I think that's why we're discussing, is we don't want a loss of lives, and we don't want our people in danger, because we care for people. So the plan B is look at reblocking. So when a structure 205 in Joe Slovo burns down, don't go put the people on the same as where we found them. We go place them in another area, but we don't have reblocking where we have proper spaces, and we don't have that. So that is just what I want to say. That the important thing is that people want to live in dignity, and at the moment people is not living in dignity. And when there is a fire, like you said, the municipality comes with more poles and give you just a starter kit, and you must be happy with a starter kit and just be happy with that. But I think as a government, collectively, national, provincial, and local government can do much more to secure that we don't lose lives and that dignity are restored. So in closing, President, the important thing is, I don't know, and I'm putting it out there, I don't know if government cares enough, because like I said, more than 10 years ago, we had the reblocking of informal settlements. It was at least dignified. It was safe, because services could be delivered, when somebody needs an ambulance and so on. So now, still to persist 30 years down the line in a democratic South Africa struggling with the same things, tells me that we need another government, and the ACDP is that government. Thank you, President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. We definitely are going to ensure that people are dignified. They are dignified, and they are given homes that are maintaining their dignity and not undermining their dignity, as we are seeing now. All right. We are going to now move to another subject that is very close to my heart, and because children, I love children. I love children. People who know me, that even at the mall, sometimes I'm attracted to a beautiful child. I stop and ask the parents, who is this child so beautiful? What is the recipe to have such a beautiful child? Because I love children. I do it all the time. But now when you hear about children being raped, that breaks my heart, and it saddens me, particularly when it is babies that are raped. There was an article in the Star newspaper. I'm sure people in the Western Cape have heard about it. When a baby, how old was that baby? He was not 8 months old who was raped, but the baby was 8 days old, raped and murdered by her dad. Now, what is wrong with our people that they would rape an 8-day-old baby? And obviously, a lot of men rape because the sentences that are imposed by the courts on rapists sometimes are a joke. What do you mean a joke? We raised an issue this past week when we called for mandatory life sentence for rapists, mandatory. Our first option was capital punishment, but because the Constitution has outlawed it, now we are saying mandatory life sentence for rapists. And we say there should be no parole, not even bail, for men who rape babies, and maybe who rape ladies or even boys in general. Rape is a very, very serious crime where the dignity of people is violated. Now, I said some sentences are a joke. Listen to this. After a man confessed to raping a 9-year-old girl at a home, a 45-year-old man, he was sentenced for, you'll be shocked, 5 years. 5 years for raping a 9-year-old girl. And obviously the ACDP was happy to know that the National Prosecuting Authority has appealed. What they said was an inappropriate sentence. And that appeal definitely is going to ensure that as this case comes before the full bench, then that person we are going to demand must get life sentence without parole. Now, what do you do in a country where they would sentence a person who was found with rhino horn, a rhino horn, arrested for poaching, and that person is sentenced for 20 years? Then a man who rapes a child is sentenced for 5 years. Something is wrong with our justice system. That is why rape is increasing. Rape is not reducing in South Africa, it is increasing. There was another protest. There's a person who was called a station strangler, who has raped, some people say more than 20 people. But one case that is now in the media, where he was also sentenced to a heavy sentence, I think it was 30 years in prison. Now they say he's going to be given a parole. The family of the victims are saying, no, he must not be released. And government listens not to the families that are hating, not to victims. They are allowing this man to be released while the families are saying he should not be released. Do you know that this man can easily, I heard some people say no, but he will not be in the same area. South Africans, that man will be back there. What is going to happen to the family and to the child that was violated if he meets this man in a mall somewhere and this man recognizes her? Is he not going to intimidate the girl again? Because we know that there are people who say, next time I'm going to do it again, next time I'm going to do it again. So what are we saying? ACDP says there will be no parole for rapists. No parole. If it is life is life. ACDP, life is not 25 years. Life is life. You will sit there until you rot in prison. That is what we want to do. So we will be telling South Africans, if you want to live a safe life where rapists are not coming close to you, vote ACDP, because ACDP knows how to deal with rapists. Let me tell you an interesting story that I've told many times. A few years ago, we went to Brazil, to a city called Aziz. There are a number of things that we saw there that shocked us, but this one thing is what I want to mention because it's relevant to what you are talking about now. We held meetings there, revival meetings, if I may use that word, revival meetings. And the Brazilians obviously have very late meetings. Some start at 8 p.m., some start at 9, and they finish around midnight. So between our residence and the church where we held the meetings was a huge city park. On a daily basis, we saw women and children in the park, 12 midnight, 1 a.m., with no men inside. And obviously coming from Joburg, we asked our host the question, is this not dangerous? Won't those children be raped? Won't those mothers be raped? And the simple answer we were given was, not here. Not here. They say women are not raped in Aziz because the penalties are very severe. So rapists, they will run to cities such as Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro and the others, but not in this specific city. I saw it with my eyes. And when I saw it, I prayed, I said, Lord, I pray that one day in South Africa, when we have a godly government, we will have children walking in the streets women walking in the streets without fear of being attacked or assaulted by anybody. When one is in Israel, in the evenings, you see women walking in the streets. No fear. In Jerusalem, that is Jerusalem, okay? I've seen women in Jerusalem, 1 a.m. walking home. Nobody will touch them. Nobody will touch them. So we want to live in such a country where women's dignity is respected, where children are loved, cared for, and respected, where rape is something that's happening in nearby countries, but not in this country. We will beat them hard. I believe in punishment because that's what the scriptures are teaching. Punish the wicked. Commend those who do right, but punish the wicked. But now the ungodly, obviously, they don't want to punish hard the wicked. Why? Because they know that among them they have people who are rapists and potential rapists, and they want to protect them. ACDP is saying rape will be something of the past because we are going to give them very, very severe punishment. And some people are saying, if you say no to parole, it means the prisons are going to overflow and where are you going to put everybody else? Now, the fact is, if there is a fear for punishment, many people will not go to prison. Many people will not commit crimes. People commit crimes, why? Because there is no fear of punishment. They know that in South Africa, no punishment, no punishment. They just get a slap on the wrist. You just get a slap on the wrist. 5 years for rape. It will never, ever happen during the ACD reign. Okay. Now, I want us to move, before we lose time, I want us to move to our last topic. Unfortunately, the bishop, we missed him last week. We are missing him again today. Bishop Eric Mangele from Mtubatuba in KZN. He was supposed to be with us tonight. I said to him, go to another city. Leave Mtubatuba and Richards Bay. Go to another city. I'm not sure what happened. We can't get him online tonight. So time is against us now. And I'm going to ask my colleague, my co-pilot, can you quickly, sir, answer the last question? Quickly. It says, the question is, can the ACDP fix ESCOM, provide clean water, fix potholes, and so on? He says now, we might be forced to choose the WEF shields for service delivery, bitter pills, and all. I can just say about WEF, World Economic Forum, we will not ask for the assistance. We will not work with them because we will have solutions. But I want to leave that to you, sir. Can we fix ESCOM?
Yeah. President, I think very clearly, the word of God says that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. When the wicked are in authority, the people mourn. What we are seeing happening with ESCOM, what we are seeing happening with the challenges of water, water safety, what we are seeing with the lack of water, what we are seeing with regards to poor infrastructure, roads, bridges, poor reticulation in South Africa, lack of investment in infrastructure is as a result of those who are in authority. And if we continue to put them in authority, then we will continue to have what we are currently seeing in terms of no energy security, poor infrastructure development, challenges with the safety of our water, lack of water, potholes in our streets, and so on. Now, what is it that the ACDP would do? I think very clearly the first thing is we deal with, number one, corruption. Corruption is costing South Africa hundreds of billions of rands. This is evidenced by the Zondo Commission. So if we look at the model in Singapore and some of your other Asian tigers, there was a very clear path to raising those economies and developing a credible system of government. You do not tolerate corruption. You have to look at meritocracy. It's a government based on meritocracy. You look at merit. So you find those individuals that are competent, those individuals that are able to produce, those individuals who are able to do the job, those individuals who have the necessary skills, the skills in terms of engineering, the skills in terms of energy, whatever the skills are, your water engineers, you hire those particular individuals. So meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty. This is what the ACDP will focus on. I need a glass of water.
I'm too far. I have water here, sir. So sorry, I can't serve you. Can you see? So sorry, sir.
Okay.
I'm just joking with you. Okay, are you okay,
You
sir?
are pause there, President.
All right. Yeah, please pause that. No, thank you very, very much, sir. And we are running out of time. But as we are closing, thanking everybody for participating, I want you to please tell us what you think HCDP policy should be. Do you agree with us when we say no parole for rapists, even no bail for rapists? Somebody once heard me say no bail and he said, but what if that person is framed and it was not them who raped, it was a lie? Because you know that sometimes ladies would say, I was raped, and they lie. And they said, what would you do? Are you not going to punish wrongly people who are innocent? I said, there will also be laws in place. A law that will say, if you falsely accuse anybody, the sentence due to that person will come upon you. We'll ensure that nobody falsely accuses somebody else, because you will not go scot-free. The punishment that is due to them will come to you, so that people will know that we have to respect each other. We will have to respect people. You cannot lie about others in order to get them into trouble. But having said that, thank you very much for being with us tonight. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Thank you for your opinions. And I'm hoping that next week we will start with your opinions. What you are saying, what are we going to do? We raise the issue of shack fires. What else can we do besides spacing and besides coating them with this chemical that retards the spread of fire? The Lord bless you and your family. Good night and God bless. See you next week, the same time, the same place. Good night.